Hi, Rod. How are you?
I'm doing good, buddy.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Rod. How are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thanks. Hanging in there, as they say.
Well, I'll start with a baseball question. Regarding your time spent in Anaheim, which of those seasons was your favorite and why?
Well, I think my first year was my favorite because when I came in, the fans really accepted me, and they were behind me a lot. So I appreciated that. And what I tried to do is give it back to them, always be nice to them and try to get along the best way I knew how. And that was being with them and talking to them whenever they asked me questions or that they needed answered.
I was a college student at the time, and I remember reading the LA Herald Examiner, and every day there was an article for about 2-3 weeks building up to the Angels are trying to work out a deal to get Carew from the Twins, and will it happen, and how much will they pay him, and things like that. And it was pretty exciting. We're thinking, wow, Rod Carew, yes, please, yes. So it was
My first choice, I had a chance to go to San Francisco and New York, and I wasn't ready to fight the big man in New York. So Danny Ford and Lyman Bostock, who I played with,
yeah.
sort of told me about Mr. Autry. And he said, if you're going to go any place, he says, go to the Angels. So met Gene and Buzzy Bavasi and talked to them, and I've been here ever since.
Well, we've sure enjoyed having you. I got to ask you about stealing home. You've got almost 20 stolen, 20 times that you stole home, and one season you stole home 7 times.
That's crazy.
It is. I mean, nobody does that. So what was it like standing there on third base? What did you look for that said, this is the guy I can go on? And what did it feel like when you started down the line?
Well, the key was Billy Martin at the time was my coach, grabbed me and says, hey, you were running fast enough. So I want to put another piece of work into your repertoire. So I says, what's that? And he says, teach you how to steal home. I said, are you crazy? What if I get hit? He said, no, we're going to work it out where we have a sign with the hitter. And you give him the sign. And if he answers, you go. If he doesn't answer, you don't go. So he wanted to use it like in the 8th or 9th inning. If we were down a run or up around a run, and allow us to come back from behind or stretch out our lead a little bit. I said, okay. So we go to spring training. Every day he had me out at third base with a different pitcher. And we worked on the timing, my walk-in lead, and when it was going to be difficult for the pitcher to catch me going home. So it was a success, but it was also crazy because one time I gave Harmon Killebrew the sign and he answered, and we were playing against the Angels, and Hoyt Wilhelm was pitching. So we never did well against him, and Harmon never really hit well against him. So we thought we tried, I think it was about the 4th or 5th inning. So I flashed the sign to Harmon and he flashed it right back. And I said, okay. Because, Hoyt Wilhelm was so slow in his delivery. And then throwing the knuckleball, you don't know where it's going to end up. So I started down the third baseline after I took my regular lead. And I took off. And as I'm sliding in, Harmon's getting ready to swing. And he used to call me Junior. So then he jumped back. He said, Junior, I'm sorry. I forgot. That instant, he forgot that he had answered me yes, that he knew I was coming. So the next day, for the guys to get on me a little bit, they brought a tombstone into the locker room. And it read, "Here lies Rod Carew, lines left by Killebrew." You know, but it was, you know, back then, pitchers never went to, it was just a straight windup.
Mhm.
Never went to holding players on. But after a while, after they see a guy that can run, uh, jockeying back and forth like he was going to do it, now managers started having the pitchers go to the stretch and holding the runner at third, because it's really tough to do it when they go to the stretch. You know, I don't care what timing you have going down the line. It was tough then. So I tried it once against Tommy John, and they just got me. And I said, forget it, no more. Let them fall asleep on the mound and then take advantage.
Rod, that was one of my favorite parts of the book, actually, was the part about you stealing home and the teammates putting the tombstones on your lockers the next day. Stealing home was something that I just have never really seen in the time that I've been watching baseball, the last 20, 25 years or so. In your book, you referenced your black book that you would keep notes of all your pitchers as you chart your at-bats with them. Did you also keep track of when you stole bases off them or when you stole home?
Oh yeah, I wrote down everything. What kind of pitch, location of the pitch, because that's, to me, that's preparing myself and getting ready for a ball game that I'm going to take advantage of something that's in that book that I wrote down. And I tried to get a lot more guys to do it, but they just kind of shrugged it off. And it's something that I do with consistency. Uh, I remember in New York, we went to New York to play the Yankees, played a Friday night game, and I got 3 hits. Saturday, I was facing Catfish Hunter. And Thurman Munson always played his games with the hitters in the batter's box. So on the way down to the bullpen, he said to me, "Well, how many are you going to get tonight?" I says, "I'm going to get one that's going to make you want to tear the hair out of your head." Said, "Well, what's that?" I says, during that bat, we'll kind of go through it. And so when the game started, my first at bat, he says, "Well, what are you going to do now?" I says, "Thurman, I'm going to call every pitch. I'm going to call location. I'm going to call what the pitch is. And then when I decide to hit the pitch, I'm going to yell out, whatever the pitch was and where the base hit was going." So he looks at me and he says, "Are you looking at my signs?" Because, I had that funny batting stance, and he thought that I could see the sign he was given. I says, "No." So I called the first pitch, and I used to track the ball out of the pitcher's hand because I felt that was the easy way to hit. And so Catfish goes into a windup, and he came upstairs, and I yell, "Fastball down and in," because I could sense Thurman moving. Plus, I knew that the sequence of pitches that I was going to get. So he looks at me, says, "You're still peeking, huh?" And Luciano was the umpire then. And on the second pitch, he goes through the windup again, and he gets to that spot, and I yell, "Slider down and in." Now Thurman started getting angry at me, and I'm going to go out there and talk to him because I'm going to tell him he's got to drill you because, you called the first 2 pitches. So he comes back, and Luciano is standing by home plate. He says, "When is this going to happen?" I said, "Lucy, it's going to happen now." And then I told Thurman, I says, "Thurman, this is it. This is the occasion you've been waiting for." He said, what are you going to do?" I says, "I told you I'm going to yell out what the pitch is and where I'm going to hit it." So Catfish goes into his windup, and I yelled out, "Fastball away," which was a fastball away. I said, "Double down the left field line." And I took off running. And I got to second base and Luciano's standing at second base going like this, praising me. But the next night I was standing by the cage and he was getting ready to go warm up Rudy May. And I said, he tapped me on the back. He says, how'd you do that last night? I took my book out of my pocket and I showed it to him. And he looked at it. He says, the same sequence of pitches he's always thrown to you. I says, yeah, that's how I could call him. You know, he just shook his head and took off down to the bullpen.
Did it change the sequence of pitches next time you
No.
faced him?
No, because, and he said he was going to change him. And then the next time I faced him, he said, you can't do it tonight. I says, old dog, don't try new tricks. You know, I says, they're geared to trying to get somebody out a certain way. So he's going to stay with what he has. Even though I wore him out, he never changed the sequence of pitches that he threw me.
Wow.
Did you save any of those black books?
I had him for a time. I had him when I was at the Angels and as a hitting instructor at the Angels. And I tried to, I put one in just about everybody's locker so that they could use it and do the same thing. But the guys didn't want to do it. So I said, okay.
And they're all gone now?
You're all gone.
Wow.
Boy, those would be something to look through today, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Was there a pitcher that when you knew you were going to face him that night, you're like, oh yeah, let's go. I own this guy. It'll be a 3 or 4 hit night.
Catfish Hunter and Ferguson Jenkins.
Ah.
2 guys I love to hit off of. It wasn't, they threw me good pitches. And, I would surprise them by hitting pitches in spots that they didn't think that I could handle. But they challenged me. They came right after me. Today, you look at young pitchers, they get 2 strikes on a hitter. And next thing you know, it's ball 3. And then the guy falls off about 6 or 7 pitches. And everybody's saying, well, that's a good at bat. Well, if you're getting pitches here, you should hit and you keep fouling it off. To me, that wasn't a good at bat. So, I just had a knack. I don't know why, but it just happened to me that I could do that and still have some success. One guy I couldn't do it with was Rudy May, because Rudy May had my number. Rudy May could have underhanded the ball up to home plate, and I'm going to hit a weak ground ball someplace or pop it up or, strike out, whatever. So when Rudy May pitched, Gene Malk always sat me down. And I always tried to and says, give me a chance, Skip. Give me a chance. Tonight's the night I'm going to hit well, he says. Look at the record. So one night in New York, he finally gave me the opportunity to face him. And Rudy got a kick out of it because he looked over at me and he went 0 for 4, gave me the 0 and the 4 fingers. And he says, that's what you're going to get tonight. So my first at bat, I got a base hit off of him. And he stood on the mound and gave me the 1 for 1. And the next at bat, he got me out. So he went, 1 for 2. The third at bat, I got another hit. And so I was ahead of him. Fourth at bat, I got another hit. And after that, I played against him all the time. And I did pretty decent against him. But the key with him, the reason that he got me out is that Rudy threw hard. And he had a great curveball, a great fastball, a good moving fastball. And he hit the ball real well, and his windup. And his windup, he did something that kind of made me, not see the ball. And then I started trying to pick the ball up from the side of his hip where I could see it come out right away, and I started having some success against him. But we played those games, you face a good pitcher and you're battling and you're fouling balls off, and then you get a base hit. It's something that I did against Vida Blue, and then Vida would always tip his cap to me. Like, okay, you got me this time. You ruined all the good pitches I threw you. So, you know, hitters and pitchers went back and forth like that.
Rod, there was a recurring theme in your book about the flight part of the fight or flight component. And the flight part was very persistent. You referenced it as happening, before, during, and after your career. Was there ever a time on the field, though, that you kind of felt that flight response, or you ever felt, wow, I don't know if I can hit anymore, or what am I doing right
Well, when I first faced Roger Clemens, I was, I think, 37, 38 years old. And he was at Boston. And he threw me some pitches that just kind of awakened me a little bit. Threw me a slider, that unbelievable slider, pitch that there's no way I could have hit it, even with a paddle. So I didn't have any success against him. And also his fastball, he had a great fastball. And the fastball moved and tailed, and so he got me out easy. So, there's pitches that, you go through, and some of them have your number, and some of them you battle to stay against, and some of them you just.
The 1977 season, you ended up hitting 388, and you were over 400 for a good long while. Was there a point where you thought, yeah, I think I can do this? And was there a point where you thought, okay, boy, I gave it my best effort, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen?
Well, I really didn't start out to hit 400. My job was to get base hits, get as many base hits as I can, get on base and score runs. And for some reason, that was like an uncanny year, that I was having. But when I got into September, my arms were tired. I was hitting, I think, about 360 something or 70 something. And my arms are tired. So, I dropped my bat from a 34 and a half, 32 ounce bat to a 31 bat. And what enabled me to do is to still be a little bit quicker with my hands and get the bat through the zone. But it was a type of year, when I was hitting at home plate, I would see, just before a pitcher releases a pitch, I would see like the middle infielders would kind of move. And I thought, am I seeing things? And then, for sure, that's what was happening. They must have thought I was going to, because of the pitch, that I would hit it just a little bit off of where they were. But the opposite happened, because I ended up hitting the ball about maybe 2 or 3 inches from where they were before, and they were going through for base hits. And I was like, are they going to stop? But most of the middle infielders did that a lot to me during the course of the year. And the same thing, that year I bunted real well, and I got a lot of bunt hits. And the Yankees, Thurman Munson and also Greg Nettles, what they did to me is they tried to box me in. Nettles would play way in at third base. So when they saw me make my move, he would charge, and then Thurman would kind of slip around to the spot that he knew I was going to drop the ball down. And then I said, okay, I got to change something. So I would do it just a split second earlier, but this time I would bunt the ball down the first base line, made the adjustment. And then they started wondering when I was going to do it. And, I got a lot of bunt hits that year also. And that's the thing about hitting. You have to make adjustments. You have to, if a guy's getting you out, you've got to make some kind of adjustment. It's like today's game with such a heavy shift, guys aren't making the adjustments to try and go to the opposite field. So as a hitter, you have to do that. You have to see how the defense is set up and, look for pitches that you can take your hands and inside out or hit the ball the other way by just getting it out front a little bit. And I remember I had to change my way of hitting against Nolan Ryan. I used to stand with my hands up high, and I thought I could catch up to his fastball up here, but I never could. And so when his fastball is up, I mean, it really exploded. When it's down in the zone, it's a little bit straighter. So I was number 4 on Nolan's strikeout list. I think I must have struck out against him about 30 times.
Wow.
I got tired. Yeah, I got tired of him saying, I can't let this keep happening. So now I decided to make an adjustment. And my adjustment was in early batting practice, I would sit on a stool that swiveled. And so I just go through the actions to make sure I'm sitting down, my body's lower, where I wasn't getting up and, chasing that high fastball. And I did that for about 3 weeks, and guys thought, see me put the stool in the batter's box. What are you doing? I'm working on something. And so after 3 weeks, I felt comfortable enough that I could do it. And the first time I faced Noli, I got a base hit, and I was like over the moon with happiness because he had punched me out twice during that game. But the second time I faced him in another game, I got 2 hits. I laid off the high fastball, and I just kind of waited for him to throw the ball down in the zone. And I got 2 hits. And the next time I faced him in Minnesota, his next game that he pitched against us, I got 2 hits, and then he yelled out at me from the mound. He said, "Stand up, stand up." I told him, "Bring it down," because when his fastball was down, it was a little bit straighter. It didn't explode as much away from you as it did when it was up in the zone. So, I ended up doing decent against him, but he was tough. He's the one that took me away from the conventional stance of here to now getting down in my stance.
Ron Luciano, you mentioned earlier, he wrote a book about his umpiring career, and he said the first time he was behind home plate when Ryan was on the mound, the first fastball that came through, he never saw it. All he could hear was the explosion in the catcher's glove. And he said, "I figured it must have been a good pitch, so I called it a strike."
That's Lucy. That's Lucy.
He was fun to watch.
Yes. And I can remember at bats that pitchers would throw a pitch on me and he'd call it a ball. And the catcher would look at him and says, "Lucy, that's a strike." He says, Rod didn't swing at it, so it's, it must have been a ball. So we had that type of relationship, but he was a great guy.
Yeah.
Rod, obviously hitting today and offense in modern day baseball has changed quite a bit since your playing days. There's been a lot of debate on whether or not modern day players can adjust and begin hitting to all fields again, or if it's something that the league should come in and make changes, like doing away with shifts or changing the mound. Do you have any feelings on what?
I have feelings about the shift. Yeah. I don't think that the shift should be that dramatic, and I don't think they should put a guy in right field. You know, it's just like playing softball. Um, but I think maybe 5 feet off the grass, the infielder should play 5 feet off the grass. And it's still a shift, but it's not as exaggerated as what they're doing now. And hitters today aren't making the adjustment to take the bunt for a base hit or try and go the other way, inside out in the ball to get hits. You know, they're just they keep hitting into the shift and getting thrown out at first base. I've seen balls that should have been hits, a lot of them that end up being an out at first base. So um, the hitters have to make the adjustment. If the teams are not going to make the adjustment for them, they have to do it themselves. They have to get into BP and try and inside out the ball or let the ball get deeper so they can, you know, handle it and take it to right. One of the kids that I see that with the Angels that does that real good is Fletcher, second baseman. You know, he lets the ball deep, but he'll hit balls down the right field line and just past the first baseman. You know, and I enjoy seeing that. I hate seeing guys walking back to lugging that bat back to the dugout after striking out 100 times.
Mhm.
Well, you mentioned
It's all about adjustments. You know, that's the key.
you mentioned about the shift a little earlier, and as fans, a lot of us sit there watching a game wondering why doesn't this guy just drop a bunt down the third base line? You know, you could
Well,
run for an hour. And
I'll tell you,
a couple of weeks ago, Otani actually did that, and
yeah.
it worked.
Well, there's so many hitters that should be doing that. But now they have this thing about getting under lofting the ball. And young hitters are hitting more pop-ups today than I think anytime. You know, instead of trying to hit the ball on the line. And you got to remember, you know, they give you two lines. They give you one in left field, one in right field. They didn't say where you should hit the ball. So when I work with hitters, I really talk to them about trying to stay up the middle, you know, try and hit pitches up the middle because then the whole field is going to open up. But if you try hitting the ball in just one little spot, you don't have much room over here to drop a little fly ball in or, you know, hit a ground ball that way.
How do you feel about the sabermetric stats? Do you like them? You don't care about them?
I'm not crazy about them because I think that play the game the way they taught us to play the game. You know, in the late innings, if a runner gets to second base and nobody out, and you can advance him so that he's 90 feet from home plate, you know, how many runs can you score from third base with different ways of pitchers making mistakes, throwing one in the dirt, fly balls, ground balls to the right side, Um, it's no one is advancing the runners anymore. And I see that and I really get upset because it could be a game winning move and they don't do it. So I don't know if they're not getting it from the manager or from themselves, you know, to hey, I might not be able to get you in, but I'm going to get you over so the next guy can, you know, drive you in or score a run by a pass ball or whatever. And it puts a little pressure, I think, on pitchers with a runner at third base, you know, without outs or, you know, one out or no outs. Plus, there are guys that has never played the game that are writing up all these different scripts that the baseball game is supposed to be played with.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, I played Little League Baseball for 5 years and Pony Colt for a year. And, you know, grab your glove and your hat and go out and play. And the game was approached very simply, very old school like.
Right.
And today, the analysis aspect of it is a whole lot different. Whole
I
lot.
think it's too much. You want to go up there with a clear mind and not having to worry about, well, you know, what do I do now? Instead of going up there and saying, I know what my job is. Because when I played, I mean, you were forced to give yourself up. And these guys work at it in spring training because they take a round where everything they tell you, runner at second base or runner at first. You want to pull the ball to get him over the third. It's not like they don't work at it, but then the game starts, and it's like, poof, they forget about doing it.
Do you think the game will shift back on its own to playing like that? I kind of suspect that eventually, if everyone's using the same playbook on stats and analytics, eventually one team's going to figure out that doing something differently will go
I,
against the
I
grain
would,
and bring them success.
yeah, I would like to see it go back to the way it was. You know, from I started playing, we were taught to do certain things and to do them in a consistent manner so that we could help the club. Now I think it's all, these kids are taking it as, well, I'm going to get a walk off here and I might hit one here and get a walk off. And, you know, it's, it's just crazy. And that's why batting averages are down so much this year because they're striking out a lot. Um, they're guessing too much, and they're not having success because of little things like that.
When you were with the Angels, who was the funniest teammate you had? A practical joker, a good storyteller, somebody who
Well,
just made you laugh.
the guy that was there, he wasn't there for long. Bert Blyleven. He is the guy that was giving you a hot foot while he's sitting there talking to you, and guys are just around and they're just like waiting for you to jump up because your shoes is on fire or something. He was the practical joker. Wherever he went, players would tell you that, you know, watch out for Bert.
And was there a player that was the leader in the clubhouse?
Yes,
I
we had Don Baylor.
I thought you might say him.
Yeah. When my first year in an Angels uniform, I felt a lot of pressure at the start of the season because I was leaving runners on third base without driving the runners in, and I might have one out or no out. And so I was like pressing, come on, you got to do it. You got to do it. You just signed this contract. And, so that pressure got to me a little bit. And Donnie took me into the locker room one day and sat down. He says, "What the heck are you doing up there?" He says, "You those are easy things for you to do." He said, "But you feel that you have to uh, do everything and not play your game, play the game that you're accustomed to playing." And after that, I started picking up runs from third with nobody out and with one out, and put a smile on my face. But he was a guy that would look at things and he'll sit you down and talk to you, and talk to everyone. I mean, he went around and talked to all the players in the locker room.
How's your health these days?
Well, I'm doing good. I just got back from a 7-day trip to Minneapolis doing some things for them. And it was about 100 degrees every single day, and I did a lot of walking, drank a lot of water, stayed inside as much as I could. But, I'm feeling a lot better. I'm doing PT 3 times a week for about 3 hours, and that's helping me with getting my legs back in shape and my balance and everything. So it's going okay.
We know that you survived the heart attack called the Widowmaker, um, and I think your foundation is trying to bring awareness. We saw an interview that Major League Baseball, the MLB channel ran, and Clyde Wright talked about how much you helped him to go in and get checked, and sure enough, he was headed down that same road. And are you still working with that?
Yes, I am. We, this friend of mine and I went to Vegas one time. There was a group of 5 or 6 of us. And so he was playing craps and he was winning. And all of a sudden he said he felt something in his chest. And he picked up his money, he went to the hotel doctor and to see him. And the doctor told him that he had like a 95% blockage. And to make sure that, he gets it taken care of, see his doctor when he went home. And I never forgot that because he told me the same thing. He said, Rod, if you feel anything, he said, go get it checked. So I was participating at the stadium the night before, uh, doing something for the leukemia, lymphoma um, positions. And I got up the next morning. I mean, I got up about 5 o'clock and I thought I'd go out and play a round of golf by myself because I hate playing with people, because some of them look at you if you slice the ball or you dub one that's, oh yeah, you're supposed to be an elite, uh, you know, and I wasn't playing a lot, so I wanted to see if I could work while I'm by myself. And the first ball, I was on the number one tee, and the first ball I hit went right down the middle. And I was surprised because usually I'm like military, left or right. So after I hit it, I stood there and I watched it and I said, okay, you don't need another ball. And I was putting my club back in my bag and my hands got kind of clammy. I've never had anything like that happen to me before. And then I had a little bit of an indigestion burn in my chest. And I never felt anything like that. So since I'm on the first hole, I went back up into the locker room and I asked the lady to call the EMS for me because I think I'm having a heart attack. And so she did. And, they came and, you know, um, I was laid on the floor with my legs up high. And it seemed like they were there about in a flash. So while they were working on me, I died. And, they brought me back. And I remember when my youngest daughter was in the hospital, I would lay in bed with her sometimes and do crossword puzzles. And she would always tell me, Dad, right over there in the corner is my guardian angel. And he has these lights around him, but you can't see him. And I would say to myself, yeah, she's been on too many drugs and, because of her illness. And what happened to me is that the second time that I left, there was one of the paramedics had a light around him, around the outside of his body. And I says, oh, Michelle, I closed my eyes and I says, Michelle, I remember, Michelle, I remember. And so they brought me back again. And then they put me in the ambulance and I passed out again. And they brought me back. So when I got to the hospital, on my way to the operating room, the same thing happened. And so I said, that's God working. He still has work for me to do, and he's keeping me here. And he just wanted to scare me and let me know that he's the one that's in charge of everything I do. And there's a doctor from Texas that put an LVAD in my body. An LVAD is a left ventricular device, and it kept me alive for about 14 months, and then it seemed like it's starting to sputter. And there's a young man that I had met when he was 11 years old, went to school with my son. And he was out there in the playground playing, and he came up to me and he said, "You're Mr. Carew, aren't you? You're Rod Carew." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I want to be an athlete, when I grow up." And I says, "Make sure you study and do your homework." And he says, "Well, I'm a good student, and I do my homework," and just kept rattling things off. So I left him, and I hadn't seen him since that day. Now, when the LVAD was not working the way it was at first, now I had to get a heart. And this young man had grown up to be a football player. He was about 6'6", 29 years old. He was waiting for probably a tryout or a contract um, with Boston. And he had an aneurysm. And as it goes, his parents told us that they did everything to keep him alive, but he didn't make it. And he passed away. And then at the funeral, people were talking about me, that I was in the hospital, I needed a heart. And his mother said she wanted his heart to go to a good person. So she called my wife and they talked, and I ended up getting, you know, his heart and one of his kidneys.
Wow.
So now I'm always with him. He's always with me. He saved my life. And it's strange how after all those years, he was right in my back pocket, and doing a job that God wanted him to do. So uh,
That's quite a
it
story.
goes.
Yeah, it was really one of the more incredible parts of the book. As much as I live and breathe and love baseball, I have to say that really a lot of your story before your playing career and after your playing career was just amazing to me. Um, One thing that really stood out while I was reading your book was your resiliency, and how really across your entire life and up until today even, you've maintained this resiliency and kind of had a chip on your shoulder that seemed like it softened a little bit with age. But as I read, there still seems to be almost a feeling of restlessness or some unresolved that you still have despite all of your achievements on and off the field. Today, do you feel like you've done it, and are you able to slow down and enjoy the time that you have now, or do you still have a lot that you're trying to accomplish?
Well, the most that I'm trying to accomplish, the most things I'm trying to accomplish, is to give uh, youngsters that have dreams the opportunity to grow up and realize those dreams. Because during my career, I didn't really have a good relationship with the press. I shied away from them, and there were only one or two guys that I really spoke to. Um, so when I was checking my daughter into Children's Hospital, here are all these little kids with their poles kicking soccer balls, and they had hockey sticks, and they're all running around the hallway, still enjoying themselves. And she came over to me and she said, "Dad," she says, "look at that." She says, "I want you to help those kids." She says, "I know that you don't talk to the press much, but I want you to open up and, give those kids a chance." And ever since then, that's what I've been trying to do. You know, I visit kids at hospitals. I put on a golf tournament for childhood cancer. Kind of opened my eyes, you know, that it wasn't just about me, you know, that there were others that needed my help. And I remember going down the elevator to go to the gift shop to get a bottle of water. And this little girl, she must have been about 6 years old. She was on the elevator with her parents and she had her poles. And then I, since I speak Spanish, so then I started talking to her and she said to me, God is going to kill me. You know, I talked to her, I says, no, no, God is going to take care of you. He's going to make you better. Um, and so when I got ready to get off the elevator, she says, you think so? She asked me in Spanish, and I said, por cierto, he's going to bless you. And I left. And things like that stays with you, you know, and, you know, it just makes you just think, here's a child that probably wants to be something or someone someday, but she's 6 years old. She doesn't know if she's going to live or if she's going to die. And I mean, it really touched me. Uh, so then I started thinking about what Michelle had just said to me upstairs. And that's now I've dedicated my life to trying to help kids, you know, help them realize their dreams because Michelle wanted to be a nurse. She wanted to save people's lives. And she had just started to take some medical lessons and then was diagnosed with leukemia.
I have to thank you for everything you shared in the book. It was just an absolutely heartbreaking and inspiring and wonderfully intimate story that you shared, and everything about that book just struck home, and it should be required reading for everybody who's a human being. It was just a great story, and I thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you very much. You know, and that's what we set out to do. My job now is to stay with the American Heart Association. Whenever they call me to go somewhere or do something, that's priority on my list. Um, and I keep thinking of my daughter saying, I'm still doing it. You know, I go out at night sometimes for a drive just by myself, sometimes at, you know, 11 o'clock or midnight. And I go out and I talk to her, you know, I ask her how she's doing and how's the garden, if is it a pretty garden, and just little things like that. And I said, you know, people have asked me about you and asked, you know, why Michelle? Because Michelle is such a, a great kid. You know, we would take uh, motorhome trips, and right away when she was like 4 years old, she couldn't wait to get to the motorhome park just so she could go talk to people. And I used to have to tell her, you got to be careful, and you know, you never know. And she'd always say to me, Dad, I'm not worried. I said, okay, you know, but that's the kind of little girl she was. And then people ask me, well, what do you think? I says, you know what? They said, why did God take her? I says, you know what? I am never going to ask him that question. He's the only one that knows why. And I have trust and faith in him. So I just left it at that.
That's a great testimony.
Yeah, absolutely. Current thoughts on some of the current Angels like Shohei Ohtani or Mike Trout? Anything sticking out to you?
Mike Trout. Mike Trout is a great kid. And he's been that way ever since he came up. And he was fortunate because uh, he had Albert Pujols and Torrey Hunter that really helped him out as far as talking to him and letting him see what he had as a young player. And he worked at it. And that's why he's one of the brightest stars in the game today. And does a lot of work, does a lot of off-field work, and I can appreciate that. And I've seen him make other kids happy and going to the hospitals and and doing things like that. So it's a great kid. You know, it's hard to find kids like those because a lot of them, when they come up, they might be, or they're going to be superstars, but they don't carry their superstar thing with them. They they kind of branch off and get too cocky and things like that. But Mike, he's got a big heart, you know, and he just had his first son, and I imagining him, you know, with that little boy, you know, but he's one of the best in the game today.
How do you,
Shohei
yeah,
also, you know, Shohei's doing some things that no one expected him to do at a consistent basis. But you know, he's an amazing kid. He wants to play the game, and for a kid so young, uh, he's doing a heck of a job, and he's becoming a big favorite around baseball. So it's nice that he chose the Angels to be here and be a part of the organization.
how do you think you would hit off Ohtani if prime Rod Carew could face him?
Well, prime Rod Carew, just worry about taking him up the middle onto left field, not worry about pulling the ball off of him.
Just make contact, right?
Yeah,
That's it. That's what the game is all about.
put the ball in play.
Yeah, you know, the worst thing that I hated to do was strike out because that is the longest walk from the batter's box back to the dugout. And you're thinking, how can I miss that pitch? How can I let him get away? How can I this? How can I that? And now I see their guys are striking out 150, 200 times. It's like, nah, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't feel good.
Do you think we'll see someone get to 400 eventually?
Well, I think it's going to be tough because there's a lot more platooning today. Um, and I was fortunate came up that I played against right-handers and left-handers. I thought for a while that Ichiro chance because of the way he hit and the way he ran, and he used the whole field to hit. I thought that he had a good chance of doing it, you know, and he's a great player.
Uh, Tony Gwynn, who was amazing to watch, he had a good run at it in the '94 season, and the strike uh, pretty much put that to an end. But I think he ended at 394 for the season, right around there. And when the season shut down, that was one of the parts that people said, "Oh man, it would have been nice to see if he could have gotten over that hurdle."
Yeah, Tony Gwynn and also George Brett.
Yeah,
I think George in a strike season hit about 390 or something like that. But Tony and I we were buddies. You know, we talked hitting all the time. And when I first came out to California in spring training, I used to go and watch him take batting practice and hit. And we developed a good friendship. And also, I would go check him out at the stadium in San Diego when he was in the cage by himself working on his hitting. And, you know, we had great conversations uh, about baseball and about what we did as hitters.
boy, that would have been fun to listen to.
It was all about getting hits,
Yep.
you know, taking pitches the other way that we should have been pulling, you know, just great conversations.
Rob, when did you last visit Panama?
Ooh, it's been a while. It's been a while. You know, it's tough for me to go there. I know that the government wants me to be well protected, and because some players have been like in Venezuela, they've been snatched by people for money. And the government in Panama, wherever I went, I had 5 or 6 bodyguards. If I had to go use the bathroom in a hotel lobby or something like that, they have to go in there and check it out, make sure there's nobody in there. And if there's anybody in there, they cleared it out. And it stopped me also from spending time with my friends, my childhood friends. Um, and that's why one of the reasons, because when I go back, all of my time is their time, and I appreciate it. But when I grew up there were these guys, these friends that they were my buddies. We went everywhere together. We played Little League together, and I just wanted to spend time. Spend time with them and see how they're doing and see how their lives are and stuff like that.
I figure that's the thing you miss most about your time in Panama, correct? Your
Beg
friends.
your pardon?
I figure that's the thing you miss most about Panama, your friends growing up.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'm able to uh, talk to some of my friends by phone, and this one buddy of mine just left for Japan to live. We played Little League together, and we were really tight. And now I don't know about contacting him in Japan, but I think uh, we'll always be good friends.
I believe the Angels have one Panamanian player. I think Jaime Barria, I think is from Panama. Have you had a
Right.
chance to
He's a
meet?
pitcher, right?
Yeah, have you had a chance to meet or talk with him at all?
Just to say hello and to remind him to work hard. If he wants to stay here, that he has to work hard. Put in the time, and if he puts in the time, he might be able to stay around for a long time.
I think I've run out of questions.
Okay.
Although I'd love to keep you here for a lot longer and just listen to more stories. I've really enjoyed that part of the conversation.
Well, thank you so much. It's great talking to you guys, and thanks so much for helping us promote the book. And we hope that everyone who purchases the book will enjoy it as much as you guys have enjoyed it. So thanks. Have a great day and stay healthy.
Thank you, Rod. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Okay.
Rod. I appreciate your time today, and you take care.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.